What's going on, guys? So yeah, I'm back, and we're gonna take the third part of the chapter, and we're gonna look at this thing called "How Congress is Organized and How It Makes Policy." Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't point up to Jane Bear the Bear. Yeah. Anyway, let's get cracking. So let's talk about Congress, how it makes policy. We got another key term here I look at. It's called bicameralism. Man, these big ass words that mean real simple things. Bi meaning two. Cameral in this case means chamber or house. It's two houses. All right, you have the lower house, which is the House of Representatives, the upper house, which is the Senate. We'll explain that, but that's what bicameral means. All right, they could have just said two houses, let it be. Right. Let's move on. So let's talk about the House. The House right now has 435 members, and they get 2-year terms of office. But I mean, they get voted in so quickly, and it's crazy too because like you only get 2 years in office, which is kind of good because let's say the person isn't doing a good job getting a new one in. But remember, incumbents always win. Number one, number two, if the election cycle is so quick, you get in, you get a job, and you got to turn around and fight for your job again. I don't know if that's the best bet. I feel like that should be like a 4-year thing, but whatever, it's life. Now, they are the ones who initiate all revenue bills, all right, and they're really influential in budgetary, financial stuff. Remember, econ class. So revenue being money, how we make money, and everything else. Remember, I always ask you guys, does government have a job? And the answer is no. So the government doesn't make any money. They have to find a way to secure tax money, to secure grants, to do all those kind of things. So they get the Congress folks are the folks who are going to be in there, or the House Representative folks are the people who are going to make sure that we get money and show us how to spend it or how to budget it out. So they'll say, yeah, 10% goes to defense, 8% goes to education, whatever the deal is. So they're really important on the budgetary side. And they have this thing called the House Rules Committee, which we'll talk about more when we work through to committees, all right? And they have limited debates, meaning they don't have a filibuster. We'll talk about the filibuster when we go into the Senate, because they actually have a filibuster, and it gets kind of iffy, all right? So let's talk about the Senate. Senate, remember, the composition is 100 members, and they get 6-year terms, baby, which is cool, which I think that makes a little more sense. And also, because they're the higher house, I think you do need more people to have more experience. You can't have a quick turnaround in that situation. They have 6-year terms. So let's do the term thing. Members of the House of Representatives, 2 years. President, 4 years. Senate, 6 years. So they kind of have a different kind of balancing act. All right, now, the Senate is more of an advisory committee, man, and they're really super influential on foreign affairs. So if you look at the two biggest things that we do as a country, we have to do revenue and finances, and then we have to deal with other countries, right? And so the House of Representatives, revenue, finance, foreign affairs, and how we deal with other countries and our policies towards them, that's the Senate deal, all right? Because they're more international in their scope. Usually more experienced kind of cats, at least they're supposed to be, all right? And they get to have unlimited debates, unlimited filibuster, man. A filibuster is real simple, man. It's just talking. You just talk to the point where you cannot vote on the particular action. Isn't that cool? There was a lady a couple of years ago in Texas, in the Texas Senate, and she literally, man, she strapped a pee bag to her leg, a straight catheter, and sat there, and she talked for like 12 hours about this bill about abortion rights, and those kind of deals. And she was talking, and so to the point where they could not vote on it. So you just drive people crazy with the fact that you can debate about it, talk about it forever, all right? And, you know, they don't happen like that, but yes, we do have situations in the Senate where we get to a standstill because people just filibuster each other. They just talk about the issue, and they never get to a vote. Now, let's talk about who the leadership is in the House of Representatives. It's led by a person named the Speaker of the House, and they're elected by House members. It's almost always going to be the most prominent person of the majority party. So, for example, Nancy Pelosi is a Speaker of the House that I can think of off the top of my head democratically. Tip O'Neill used to be Speaker of the House as a Republican. There's a bunch of folks like that. And so you just get voted in. So you're the person in charge necessarily, right? And that speaker provides over the House, all right? They have a major role in the committee assignments legislation. So they're the ones who say, okay, this is your committee. This is what you're going to deal with. And this is what the legislation or the bill that we're going to put in place. And usually, man, when you have a situation, perfect storm, Congress is one party, the Senate is the same party and the president's the same party, things run smooth as hell. But we usually don't have that, so then things just go up and down. See, all three chambers are supposed to come together, and sometimes they don't. All right. Now, there's also a person called the majority leader, and the majority leader obviously is just a person for the majority party, right? So Speaker of the House, again, is the most senior member or the most respected member, usually of the majority party, and then there's also the House Majority Leader, and they come together and they work together, right? So that's what the House looks like on the leadership side. Now, on the Senate side, the person in charge of the Senate, which is weird, is the Vice President of the United States. On paper, almost never. No, almost never. Like, the Vice President don't get involved because don't need to. Now, remember, the number is round. When you have round numbers, 50 to 50 vote. So really, something crazy happened. The Vice President could be can vote if and when it needs to be a tiebreaker, but almost never happens. And so he's the President pro temp of the Senate officially, right? But then you have the Majority Leader who usually does everything in the Senate. So again, you have majority leaders on both sides. The majority leader on the Senate is the person primarily in charge, all right? And they're assisted by whips. We'll talk about that. Remember, even in class, we talked about our roles as whips, like people who make sure things go the right way. A whip is a person who's supposed to make sure that you vote across party lines. A person who makes sure that you understand the issues that the party's trying to bring forth to the people, all right? And you have to work with the minority leader if you're in the Senate. Now, imagine if you're in an acrimonious or negative situation with the two parties together and you have a minority leader and a majority leader that do not like each other. You know, let's say Democratic majority leader, Republican minority leader, and they just are cats and dogs all the time. It really does stall our system. So sometimes our democratic system or our system of putting two different parties in place kind of makes things not work the right way. It's less efficient, but it is more free in a sense, right? Because what you really want in a very efficient Fidel Castro-like system or Joseph Stalin-like system that everything is done quickly, but then the ideas of different people never get talked about. So who knows? So that's how the two groups are set up in their leadership and things of that nature. All right. So let's talk about the House versus the Senate and just their differences, okay? First and foremost, we talked about this already. 435 members for the House based on electoral college votes, 100 for the Senate based on every state gets 2 senators, which is crazy. Think about this for a second. We have damn near 40 million people in California, right? And we get 2 senators. Montana, I ain't talking about French Montana, but Montana gets 2 senators with 500,000 people. Wyoming, 1 million people. It doesn't make any sense. So on the Senate side, it's actually less representative for the larger states, which is weird and crazy in and of itself. But, hey, it is what it is, right? It's a system that we got into. We talked about the Great Compromise, the Connecticut Plan, way back in the 1700s when we started the country, all right? Now, you have big constituencies for the Senate because the Senate, you're looking at a whole state. You know, so you have 2 senators representing the whole state. So, for example, if you're the senator from Florida, you represent, you and your colleague represent 20 million some people with just the 2 of you. All right. Now, if you are a House representative member from the state of California, you and your 52 other colleagues, there's 53 of you, represent this whole big giant state. So the constituencies are a lot smaller, right? Now, there's not a lot of political prestige going on with Congress members. Most of us don't know our Congress members. Most of us don't know our senators. But, I mean, really, truly, Congress members are not everywhere. You don't see them like that in the street, and they're not the people who end up becoming president. Senators become president, right? The senator, Barack Hussein Obama, the senator this guy, the senator that guy. Congress is kind of like a stepping stone to senator. Senators are kind of a stepping stone to governor. Governor's kind of like a stepping stone to vice president, president, you know, the whole process, you know. See, so there's a little bit different, right? And also, you don't get a lot of turnover in congressional districts. Man, in House of Representatives, like we said, incumbents almost always win. It just stays the same for almost forever. So you'll be represented by the same congressperson or House of Representative member for your life, your mama life, your auntie life, everybody's life, it feels like. Now, it's a little bit different on the Senate side. Is there a huge turnover? No, incumbents still usually win, but it goes up and down a little bit more than you would think, all right? Now, very important when you think about who has been there longest. If you are a Congress member or I'm sorry, not a Congress. Let me stop. See, I messed up. Remember I told you from the first video, Congress. Anyway, if you're a House of Representatives member, being there longer means a lot more. If you seniority matters, all right. So seniority matters in getting the right appointments, getting put on committees, and everything else. Now, does it matter on the Senate? Yes, but a lot less because there's more turnover and there's not a lot of people who are doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years as compared to the district side or the House Representative side, right? Now, remember, you have unlimited debate on the Senate side, limited debate on the House Representative side, all right? So that's pretty much some of the differences. Obviously, it's in your book, but I just want to just kind of tell you about it, get yourself set. Look, the next video we're going to do is going to be committees and subcommittees, and we'll rock and roll from there.